Hello and welcome to Using Discus in ELA and Social Studies for the secondary level. This content was originally created for the Richland 1 School District Professional Development Day. Today we're going to cover many resources as you see in the list here, everything from ebooks to videos, geographical maps, historic newspapers, and more. How are we going to go about this in such a short time? We're actually going to break them out in steps. We're going to take a look at English language arts and begin to build around the topics of a novel such as Animal Farm. We're then going to move into an English/social studies take on our resources, looking at current issues, pro and con topics related to social issues. And then we're going to take a deeper dive into social studies itself, looking into some of the same resources and some additional resources. And finally, we're going to jump into geography. We're going to look at world and United States geography, along with some tools for South Carolina. So if at any point you get this Discus login screen when you're trying to access one of our resources, you can contact your school librarian or media specialist for the current Discus username and password. You should not need this if you're using a computer that is networked at your school. You can share that username and password with students, teachers, and parents throughout South Carolina via print, email. Do not post the login credentials to open websites, social media listservs, newsletters, or documents that you'll be posting to the open web, as that may compromise our licensing agreements with the databases. If you have any questions about any resource we cover today, please contact me or contact your school's librarian or media specialist. If you would like to pause this video at any point and open a tab and try something new and try it out, please do that. Make this as interactive as possible in a recorded format. Go ahead and choose a topic that you're teaching soon or around which you're building a unit, lesson, or assignment. You can access scdiscus.org and again ask your media specialist for the login. If you're creating an assignment and you want to make sure that students are going to be able to provide the content that they need through Discus, you would be able to test some of those out today as well. Also remember that everything that we cover today and all of our topics between ELA and social studies, there are tutors available for both of these subjects for K through 12. And that's something that we mentioned in our original introductory session for Richland 1. So let's go ahead and get started. As you'll recall, you're able to access our resources through the middle school and high school grade levels, also through our subject headings if you prefer to go that way. We're going to be accessing through the A to Z list just for the sake of time today. So we're going to start out with TeenBookCloud. We're just going to jump into TeenBookCloud here. This is our newest acquisition for ebooks for middle through high schoolers. You're going to find both social studies related books, nonfiction books, and those books that are relevant for ELA as well. If you're familiar at all with the TumbleBook platform, you'll notice that it is very similar. It is the same vendor that we will be working with. But notice across the top, you can actually view the books by the index in an alphabetical order listing here if you want to see them A to Z. You may also search and sort by author if you choose to view them by author first. Notice you also have the option just to browse across the top in any of the buckets that you see here. So if we go into our nonfiction here, you're going to find some of the primary source content, history books, civics, science, etc. that are located in the nonfiction playlist that you see here. Notice there are some good key titles here also within about the Holocaust, civil rights, and other topics that might be useful to those of you on the social studies side of the house. Another way that you may search these books is not only to go across the top, but also with the search at the top right-hand corner. That's what we're going to do first here. Let's say that your students are studying the novel Animal Farm, and you want them to be able to collectively read the same book. You could actually search on George Orwell here and locate the books by this author. Notice you can also search by the title here. And we see a couple of options for 1984 that are listed here. I wanted to show you the different types of ebooks. So for instance, if you are looking at the 1984 book here, this one is an advanced placement category. The audio book is going to be audio only. And the enhanced ebook is going to provide the text and the audio narrated by a professional narrator. So let's pull up that copy of Animal Farm here. We're going to go into the Animal Farm Enhanced ebook. Notice there are also lesson plans that go along with the books here and the reader's guide. So these will actually link you out to other sites. These are not internal to the software, but if we click on the reader guide here, you're going to be able to see those options that you have to view those also there. You'll also be able to check out the lesson plans that are available. But let's click on Read Online for you to be able to see what the software looks like. So in this format, you're going to find in the enhanced ebook that the words are read aloud, narrated by the narrator, and they're highlighted as the narrator speaks. Notice in the bottom left-hand corner, you can just toggle on or off that narration.
Jones of the Manor Farm had locked the hen houses for the night, but was too drunk to remember to shut the potholes. With the ring of light from his lantern dancing from some...
The student can also pause it if they want to read it on their own. They can just use the green buttons to go forward and back as far as viewing the text. They're also able to change some of the text options. If it's easier on their eyes to actually enlarge that text, they're able to do that as well. And they're also able to just click on the chapter menu, so if they stop reading in, let's say, chapter 3, they could easily go back and find where they left off.
Chapter 1.
So if you as an instructor want to assign for your student, all of your students, to read this book, you could actually go up to the index that I mentioned at the beginning here. You could easily locate that title if you want to click on the A's to jump to Animal Farm here. You could easily locate that enhanced ebook. That's what you're looking for. And all you'll need to do is click on that book ID in order to link this book to an assignment. So you would be able to take this URL and open up a Word doc and create an assignment. Read the assignment and read this book and answer questions, or read this book and list the initial characters that you find on that piece. So we just copy that link. We could then go down into our Word document here. We could create a hyperlink to our assignment here just by highlighting our text and choosing Insert Hyperlink. And now you can have the assignment to read Chapter 1 of Animal Farm and list the characters you meet. And when the student clicks on that link, they're going to be able to open up exactly where we were in that. This is the page to which it would link. Notice you also have other titles here, such as videos, that also lend themselves to history and science. And you also have the AP English titles that are listed according to their time periods, the ancient works, classics, all the way up to the modern and contemporary titles. So once the students look at or open up Animal Farm to begin to read their assigned novel, you might want to actually take them back into another database, Bloom's Literature. Bloom's Literature is going to allow the students to get background information, to learn about the characters, maybe dig a little deeper into the allegory that's available in Animal Farm. If you have an assignment for them that you want them to find critical literary criticism, Bloom's Literature is also a great place for that. So we would just simply type in Animal Farm here to find out all of the information that is available for this title. And notice across the top we have various tabs. So we're looking at reference books here that refer to how to write about the novel, some of the summaries of the novel, the background of it, some of the censorship history related to Animal Farm, the concept of community, the concept of cruelty. So you can see that this Bloom's Literature will actually help the students break down different aspects of it. This is great if you're assigning group work about different aspects of the novel. Notice also for the criticism, you're going to have some more specific types of topics like George Orwell's dystopias, revolution on Animal Farm. And then you're even going to get information about the allegory. Students are going to be able to cite all of their information very easily once they pull up one of the articles here for criticism. Notice there's a read aloud that will help them to hear and understand it. They can download that article. They can also share the article. So if they want to email a link to themselves, you're also able to share it to Google Classroom. And since you are a district that is Microsoft based, you would probably choose to download that as your option. If we go back to our search results and we look across the top, we're also going to be able to find tabs that include images. So if students are actually reporting or doing presentations and want to include an image, they can do that as well. And then finally, we have an excellent collection of videos here that you're going to find on that specific topic about an introduction to Animal Farm, the motivation behind Animal Farm, who was George Orwell. So you're going to see that you're going to be able to introduce topics with these, start lessons, or have your students pull these up to be able to view them and make some decisions about their homework assignments. There are also transcripts that are available and downloadable so that you would be able to sort of read ahead and know what's available within that video before you even show it there. Notice on the right, there's also a table of contents to tell you all that is in that video. There's also closed captioning that you can turn on. If you're showing this in class, either online or face-to-face, you would be able to turn on the closed captioning for students to be able to read the words as well as hear the words being read. Notice also in Bloom's Literature, there's also a Shakespeare Center. So if we go back to the home page here, if you are studying Shakespeare, the Shakespeare Center is on the right-hand side here. And you're going to find each of the plays will have a breakout of overviews, information about difficult passages, the key characters in the play. And this is something that your students can watch a video of the play, or you can pull up specific scenes in class in order to help students understand different acts and sections there. Notice there's also background and history on Shakespeare that's available here. And you're also going to find in Bloom's Literature the search options that you find here and the curriculum tools that you see here if you're wanting to look at some of the teaching literature through film pieces that are available. If you just want to browse the resources and see what full text classics and text are available for the literary classics and the full text poems, you also have that option. And if you just want to view the entire video collection, you can do that as well by clicking on videos. And the timelines are sometimes also useful to you social studies teachers who may be teaching about something about civil rights, but you want to pull in some of the literature of the time. So you can see these are the videos here that are in alphabetical order. They can also be sorted, filtered on the right by different genres. So if you're only interested in documentary films and you want to browse those, if you're only interested in an educational video, you can browse those as well. So continuing on with our animal farm, we're going to now go into Learn 360 from our A to Z list. This is valuable to both the social studies side of the house and the English ELA side of the house, because you're going to find all kinds of printables, handouts, fact sheets, and of course videos, which is what Learn 360 is most known for. You can actually click on videos here in Learn 360, and you can browse all the subjects. So if you're only interested in browsing those subjects that are related to English, composition, grammar, literature, etc., you can browse those. For social studies, it's broken out by geography, culture, sociology there. And then we also have additional topics here on the left for you for history, the ancient civilizations, U.S. history, and world history topics. So you can either browse those, or you can go up and do a direct search. So if you are preparing something about Animal Farm here and you want to locate those videos that would be relevant to that, you're going to be able to find them here. And you're also going to be able to filter these as well. So if you only want these that would be relevant to middle schoolers or to high schoolers, you can limit by your grade level. And you can also then add the author there in order to filter out some of these. They're all searching by keyword, so that's why we found some of these are not as relevant, because they are searching for keywords rather than subject. So you could add another keyword like I just did in order to get those that would be related to the Animal Farm novel. Notice as well, if we go into one of these videos and it loads, the vendor is the same as the one from Bloom's, so you're going to still get a transcript and you're still going to be able to see what is in it. And you'll also be able to download many of these as an MP4 video file to your device, or your students may download it. Notice the citations are available for all of the videos for MLA or APA style. So after your students or you get background knowledge, get different videos that you want to pull in, maybe to a lesson that you're doing, you can also go out and search in SmartSearch to broaden that search even more. And SmartSearch is the device that we use. It's actually similar to a Google search, and that's actually searching across our databases. So once the students and you get familiar with specific databases such as Bloom's, such as Learn 360 and some of the key features within them, you can also search here. So if I search on Animal Farm here and include Orwell, because again I'm doing a keyword search, notice I'm going to get results from several of those databases that we just mentioned. So if you see here, Literary Reference Center is one we did not cover, but is one of our databases. You can see with each one that's available here, the database that the resource is coming from. So on the left, you're able to actually filter even more. And I'm going to enlarge this a bit so that you can see the screen better. And you'll see that you can actually do show more if you're only interested in looking at academic journals related, those articles related to Animal Farm and George Orwell, or if you're only interested in the ebooks that are available there. You can limit by the type of information that you're looking for. Also, you can clear those expanders if you want to go back and look at additional resources. You can do that also. So if I click on Show More again, I can just clear off ebooks. And if I'm only interested in looking at academic journal articles here, I can limit to those. And that's going to pull, again, from various databases all at once. And then finally, You can also limit by the database. So if you did see something in Learn 360, for instance, that you'd like to get back to easily, you can just simply look at I want to use here, and you can locate any of those resources by clicking on the database, the specific database. If your student wants to view this article in relation to something they're writing, they can actually look at the description of the article and see if it's what they're looking for. They can also open the full text there on the left with the PDF file, and they can save that PDF file so they'll have that article available to them. Notice also to your far right, they're going to be able to easily cite that article as well. They would just quickly look at the MLA style there. They're going to be able to pull that citation. They're also going to be able to email the link to themselves. If they have a Google Drive account, they could email it to themselves here or save it to their drive, and they could print the article out. So SmartSearch is going to work the same whether you're using social studies content or ELA content. So some of this is going to be across the different disciplines as far as the use of the resources. So finally, one last thing that we'll show you, particularly for the writing side of the house inside our databases, is the Writer's Reference Center there. Writer's Reference Center is also useful for those in social studies who are writing papers and might need just to be able to check out some different grammar, some different word usage questions that they may run into. And we're having a little delay here in our loading. But you can see here that students often confused words if they're reading over their paper and they want to use affect or effect. For instance, confused words that they have here, common punctuation mistakes with commas and other rules such as that. They also have a whole reference shelf of resources for proverbs, cliches, American regionalisms, words often confused again, literary and thematic terms. So if you're having them study specific terms, maybe they are actually learning about allegory in relation to Animal Farm, this is going to tell them a little bit more information about what an allegory is. So Writer's Reference Center is useful for social studies and English. So next we're going to segue into the social studies side of the house, along with some different topics you can use for argumentative writing on the ELA side of the house. So we're first going to go into World Almanac for Kids Intermediate. This one is actually more for your 6th graders, 7th graders, maybe early 8th graders. Officially, it is marketed to 6th through 9th grades. But the nice thing about this one is your students can actually go in. You can actually introduce pro and con kinds of topics by going into topics and the Take a Stand in World Almanac for Kids Intermediate. Students can get exposed to learning about looking at two sides of an issue. Should there be animal testing, homework? Notice many of these topics are going to be of much more interest to a student who is in 7th grade, 8th grade, maybe a little younger than those teenagers in high school, to kind of get them exposed to pros and cons types of issues there. The other piece that I want to show you is actually in our Gale in Context Opposing Viewpoints, and this is going to be useful again for your upper level students, secondary students. These are going to be much more in-depth topics. Some of them are going to be about sanctuary cities and police brutality, and some of those topics that are a little bit more complicated for students to wrap their heads around and to be able to report on. And you'll see within Gale in Context Opposing Viewpoints, they can browse the issues here on the right with the light bulb, and they're able to pull up by different groups those different topics. So we do have police brutality here on the right. We have some of more current topics. You can see some that they've actually added new. You're always going to be able to see what's been updated and what's been new with these topics, with race relations, racism, gun control, here on the right, renewable energy, fracking, so some of those issues that have come up during the election for those of you with teaching social studies, they can explore many of these topics here. And as soon as they click on one of the topics, let's just say, let's go down to the topic of hybrid cars. So if you have students that maybe want to write pros and cons paper about hybrid cars or self-driving cars that you see here, notice anytime you click on this, the student is going to get an overview of the topic, usually a very thorough overview of what the pros and cons are of that current issue and immediate impacts of it. But also notice they're also going to get a variety of resources, and this is one of the best things about Discus. All in one spot. They're going to be able to pull infographics, data charts, video links, viewpoint essay articles, magazine and journal articles, all in one place that have been published for them there. Notice here within each bucket we have electric cars can meet the daily needs of U.S. drivers. And why electric cars are not as green as they may seem. So there's always going to be pro and con viewpoints that you see here. There's also going to be reference articles related to those, any images that are available, Tesla's sales there, electric cars driving. So you're able to actually have the students utilize these resources and be able to easily cite them. So if I jump into the magazines here, just into this section, I can view all of those magazine articles that include something to do with the hybrid or electric cars there. And I'm also able to just click on the links here and notice we have options for sharing and saving these. The student is also able to take advantage of the highlighting feature where they can highlight and make notes. So if they are only looking at maybe pro side of an issue, pro side of the issue there, they can save that. If they're looking for maybe what some of the concerns are about the electric cars, they could highlight those in a different cons or concerns about the issue. They could make a note here to say, I need more information about this specific aspect of something as well. And once they do the highlights and notes there, they're able to take that up and send it to their Google Drive or to their Microsoft OneDrive and be able to have the article together with all of their notes and their highlights, so they can easily be able to refer back to that information. And this is useful again for social studies or for ELA there as well. So if we go back to our main page and back out to our results and our main Gale and context opposing viewpoints and browse those issues again, we can look at some other topics that would lend themselves more to the social studies side of the house. And one of them would be the sanctuary cities that we mentioned, pros and cons, but also the social justice. So social justice in itself. This would give you an overview of some of those key pieces with economic justice and access to health care and other pieces there. And it would also, again, break out the different types of information that are available on the topics for them. So this is a great place for you to introduce your topics. It's also a great place for your students to be able to do their own exploration of key topics. And then you can continue to explore some of the other resources that we've already spoken of that you could then pull in some of those videos or pull in some of those other pieces from Learn 360, for instance. One of the other databases that are useful for the pro-con point of view type of topics is Points of View Reference Center. We'll click on P here for you to locate that. Again, this is going to give you some more viewpoints and essays. Election interference, Vote America, police use of force, some of the key topics that are now being highlighted, coronavirus here. And these are all broken out by topics as well. So you can pull some directly from civics and government side of the house there. You can also view more. So if you're talking about the concept of impeachment and you want students to be able to speak out or talk about that topic, you can actually click on impeachment there and points of view. You're also going to get an overview of the topic here as well. And then any other types of information along the right-hand side that will lend itself to that topic also. And notice you do have the tools along the right to be able to save it, email it, print it out, cite it, etc., just like you did in SmartSearch. So go ahead and hit pause on the video and explore some of these resources that we've just gone over. And again, if you have any questions, please contact me. I'll be putting up my contact information again in a moment. Now we're going to segue into our social studies more related to our searching for information on our Great Depression in the United States. So here we're actually going to go into a database that will give your students and you the ability to look at the background information of a topic. So if we go into Credo Reference next, again from our A to Z list, you'll find that you can actually have the students type in their topic, whether it's American Revolution, whether it's the Bolshevik Revolution. Here we're going to do the Great Depression as a search. Notice what they're going to get. This is also very useful if you're introducing a lesson or a unit to begin with. But they're going to get a good overview of that topic here. They're going to be able to read a thorough selection there that's explaining how it began, some of the background on it, some of the key players in working through those Depression era years. Notice when I click on that topic, I do again have my citation easily available in MLA or APA style. There's also the read aloud for the students that would help. And then notice on the right, they also pull related searches such as Herbert Hoover, the New Deal. And then you can also find a breakout on the right of our other databases. So if you wanted to go back into historical newspapers looking for Great Depression, History Reference Center, you could simply click on one of those links and now be able to pull from our other resources as well. So if we go back to the search result list, notice you'll always get a pull out here on the right of the concept map. This is actually called the mind map in this resource. So students would be able to click on specifics such as Great Depression in the U.S., the New Deal here, the decade of the 1930s, and be able to pull more specific information. And each time they change the node on that map, notice on the left, our results change here as well. So this is something that you could introduce this to your students. You could also have them search for background information. If you wanted to pull up a particular topic, maybe you wanted them all to read the same article on something here. Perhaps you want them to look at, let's say, just the general concept of depression here on the left in the United States, or if you just want them all to read this one article because there are a couple of key pieces you want them to be able to see, notice you can go up to the page link similarly to as we did in our TeenBookCloud, and you can actually hyperlink this text, hyperlink this link, so that the student you could then make one of those assignments like we showed you in TeenBookCloud, where you could go to your Word doc, open that up, and link to this specific article. So those are all options that are available to you and your students there. So after you've gathered some background information, maybe found out about some of the key people, some of the key events that were related to or came out of the Great Depression. So if we go to Herbert Hoover here, and we now work through this topic here, we're looking at all the different pieces that were related to him as well. So this would have been in during the crash and leading up to. So you can see that here. You could have them comparing and contrasting what was happening in 1930s as opposed to 2020 with some of these. Notice also with the Smart menu, you're able to search by key titles. So if you just want to search all titles that have the word history in it, or have maybe more specifically maybe United States history, etc., you're going to be able to find all of those titles that include a subject there. So we have brief history of Egypt, France, Germany, and that's something that you might find very useful when you go over to the geography side of the house there. You could also just search directly out on Franklin D. Roosevelt here. If they want to just go out and do a direct search without actually using the mind map, they can do that also and be able to get information about the man who really worked throughout the decades of the Great Depression there. So again, your student could then take that search on Franklin Delano Roosevelt out to one of our other databases that are on this side. So if they wanted to go into History Reference Center here, for instance, it's going to maintain that search and pull up him as, again, as a keyword search there. And you would be able to then limit to magazines, etc., like we did in our SmartSearch. This is the History Reference Center collection that you see here. So you could actually go up to the source types again, like we did in SmartSearch now, and select if you're just wanting them to find something in a journal. If you're wanting them to pull primary source documents that would be related to him as well here, you can do that. And just update that search. So now we're still searching on Roosevelt, but we're also limiting it just to those primary sources that are related to the topic here. And just as we did on the English side of the house, you can always go out to Learn 360. There are a lot of presidential speeches there. You can actually search on key people, key events. So we could actually put Great Depression in United States. You could put Depression era if you choose to do that. Notice you're going to get a variety of resources here. This is from the 1930s, dealing with the Dust Bowl, an overview of the Great Depression for more of your high school students. And notice this one is more geared toward your middle schoolers. So you've got different angles that you can work with there in using those videos. You can also go into the printables that might be related to your topic here. And these are handouts that you would be able to pull, download, and be able to share. So if you click on one of these, they're actually going to open up in a PDF. These are printables that are available inside your Learn 360. And again, they are downloadable to devices here that you could share in a virtual or face-to-face environment. There are also presidential speeches and such. So if we look up Franklin D. Roosevelt here, as far as videos go and other information, if there's actually a fact sheet on him, that would become available too. So these are different aspects of the president here. Some of them are within the time frame of speeches that were given. So that's something that you could use as a teacher or the students could report using. And then again, any of these tabs now are going to be just focused on anything to do with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So you can see here the images that we pull. Any audio, if they have an audio recording of that particular president or figure, that's going to be here. The famous Nothing to Fear speech. So that's something you can use with your social studies. In addition to primary sources that you might find in video and you might find in History Reference Center, you're also going to be able to go out to historic American newspapers. And historic American newspapers, as you see here in our A to Z list, is an excellent resource to be able to pull up again, some key primary documents for people to be able to see what was being published in the newspapers during the Great Depression, for instance. So if I look up Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Franklin D. Roosevelt here, and I search in all of the state's newspapers that are found here, and we'll just wait for this to go forward for us. Notice we're going to get some that are actually on the front page news here. There are also some, the man behind the New Deal. So this is one of the front pages here. And you can see this one, if you enlarge it, you can see this came out on March 5th of 1933. And this is historic newspapers that students can actually read about what the people living during that time were hearing about their presidency. Just like what in 2020 with the Biden and the Trump piece, years to come they're going to be able to see what was published and what people knew then versus the future. And this is always very interesting to students, whether they're in middle school or high school, to be able to pull these up and to read what people were actually reading during the time the history was happening. So this is another piece that you can actually have your students search to pull in some facts and information on your historical topics. Again, this is the Historic American Newspapers link. If you're teaching something about the Titanic, for instance, you can actually pull up some of the pictures, some of the very first pictures that were taken during the time of the Titanic disaster. So students would be able to see these, and certainly they would have commentary thereafter, that even up until now with some of the things they're discovering. But this is a great way for them to take a glimpse into the past as to how people were understanding their world as events were happening. So we're going to take one more pause here. If you want to pause the video and check out any of these resources that you've just seen. We're also going to then move on to our geography piece. And the geography is now going to be what we cover, because this is an important part of the social studies for secondary. And what we're going to look at first, I'm just going to quickly click on by subject for you to see geography here broken out. So if you did want to direct your students to go by subject to locate some of these resources that are here, the Credo Reference that we mentioned will have some geographical encyclopedias and other pieces about different countries in the world, etc. But what we're going to look at first here is we're going to go back into that World Almanac for Kids Intermediate for the middle school level, so that you can also see there are a lot of good maps that are available on the student side of World Almanac for Kids. This is great for 6th graders, 7th graders that are doing some, even 8th graders. So they're going to have the detailed maps of the countries, of the 50 states, etc. available here to them. So they could actually study in detail one of the states, even South Carolina here. And then on the teacher resources side of the house on the right, you would be able to actually pull outline maps for them to be able to take a map test. So if you wanted to utilize this and pull it into your learning management system or to share out to the students, notice if I go to the 50 states maps here from the teacher resources side of the house, I'm going to be able to just get that outline map and now quiz the student on the lakes and the key cities and the capital, etc. there that they can fill in and use. And again, that is downloadable there. You could also print it out and use it in class if you wanted to do it that way. Also, when we're looking at World Almanac for Kids, you're going to see within the topics at the top that you're going to be able to find in your social studies some different aspects for middle school, high school, some primary U.S. resources there as well. But your geography here listed on the left, that's going to break out information about oceans, lakes, rivers, the countries of the world. And notice once you're in this database, all of the articles are along the left that they could use to report on different topics. But you're also going to find your videos here on the right. So if you wanted to show a particular video to do with the different seas here, oceans, geology of the ocean floor, other topics, those videos are available to you as well. So it is a very robust collection here for those early secondary students in middle school there also. You will find that the premier database for culture, for geography, is Culturegrams. And this is really actually available for grades K through 12. Notice we have a kids edition on the right, a world edition, a states edition, and even a Canadian province edition. So if you are teaching South Carolina history and you want to go into states edition here, you're going to find a full report on South Carolina. You're going to find a background history timeline here in Culturegrams all the way back to the 1500s as the state then became established, as you can see through the present. You're also going to find key recipes of our state and comfort foods. You're also going to be able to click on and learn about famous people from South Carolina. So if that's something you want to add for the students to explore, that's available as well. The population, the government is here. And then from that historical viewpoint, we've got everything from the early years to the Civil War, Reconstruction, and even up into civil rights in South Carolina. And if you want the student to be able to access the entire report, you can click on View Full Report here on the right, and that's going to give you all of the key facts. It's going to give you the climate and geography, the historical background, and everything that we've mentioned here so far, the people, the population, the famous people. So that's something that the student can actually open up and use in an entire one report format. They can also email that or print it out. So you're going to find those same key pieces for each state in the 50 states. So if you wanted them to compare and contrast South Carolina to Massachusetts or South Carolina to California, for instance. There's also a distance calculator and the state time converter there. And notice with the maps, you have a detailed map, an outline map, and a county map. So that's another option for you as social studies teachers to be able to utilize that piece. And then we're also going to look out at our Culturegrams World Edition, because this is going to be great for you who are exploring. If any of you are teaching a foreign language and you're maybe teaching Spanish and you want them to explore Spanish-speaking countries, for instance, you can do that. You can take them into South America, you can take them into Mexico, etc. I'm just going to click on Brazil here as an example to show you in the World Edition, you have several different maps. You have an outline map, simple map, political map of the country. So you have even more details that are available with the maps within Culturegrams than you had in the World Almanac for kids. So there are things that you can actually pull up in the classroom for the students here. There's always an infographic for every country that breaks out different facts such as how many siblings they have, the level of education, etc. They can also use the graph and tables piece on the right if you want them to compare and contrast their country with another one. So for instance, if we do the comparison table, I can go in and I can find my South America here. I've got my Brazil already checked, but if I want to compare Brazil to Cambodia here and Dominican Republic and the United States, I can actually pull those countries and I can compare it on their capital size, the size of their country, the population of their country. I can also look at the population under 15. I can compare male and female literacy in the country, the health. You even have it drilled down to the different energy sources if you want to compare that. And then once you click Create Comparison Table, the student can actually then pull this into an Excel file if they want to be able to report back on what they've what they've found in comparing their countries. This is great for the data literacy element of social studies there for students. And you'll also find within the culturograms for the countries, you're going to find video slideshows if you're introducing the country, if you want them to explore it more, a photo gallery there, famous people and interviews there on your right. Again, you're going to be able to find a history, background history of the country there. You're going to be able to look at some of the different greetings that they use in that country. And many of these also have an audio file for pronunciation. Hello, goodbye, good afternoon. And then, of course, their customs and courtesies. Sometimes you're going to find information about their family, their marriage and dating mores, their holidays. So there's lots of points of comparison here. You can also print the country report, as I mentioned before. You can also print that out just like you can in the States edition. So there's just a lot here for your geography piece in culturograms. And one thing that we did not mention that I want to show you back in our Learn 360 is you're going to have just a robust collection of maps and flags, etc. at your disposal here that aren't just your outline maps. Notice there's historical maps, thematic maps. And those are broken out in the carousels here, the Canadian ones, the countries, different historical ones. But notice when we go into the thematic maps, military maps, environment, economy, so if you're teaching economics there, the historical maps that pop out here are going to be primarily for U.S. and world history. So you're going to be able to utilize those maps and flags. Also, if you were going for the Great Depression and World War II and you needed a quick map there, you're going to be able to find those that are related. Also, a Dust Bowl map. Which of the states were affected by the Dust Bowl, for instance. Notice too, when we go back out to Learn 360, in the printable section that you see here, you're also going to get a good breakout of fact sheets for history. So if you choose fact sheets there, you've got U.S. history fact sheets. The Great Depression here, there are 34. You also have some that are available more for multicultural topics here for African American history, women's history, Hispanic American history, your U.S. government that is here, and your world history. These are all going to be PDF documents, again, that you're going to be able to use as handouts, either virtually or in the classroom. These are also very useful for those of you teaching literature if you're teaching a particular time period and you want to get the student involved with what the author may have been experiencing during their time. So we have Great Depression statistics, famous Americans there, minorities in the Great Depression. So you're going to be able to use these handouts and pull them into your learning management system, print them out to face-to-face classes, or to download and share these if you want them to be able to use them on their devices.